Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm taking a look at the Grand Carnival, a tile-laying polyomino game of carnival construction designed by Rob Cramer and illustrated by Ryan Goldsberry for Uproarious Games. Before we get into anything, I do need to let you know that I received a review copy of this game from the publisher, but I promise as always not to allow that to affect my thoughts on the game. With that being said, let's get down and take a look at a solo playthrough of the game, and I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a game of the Grand Carnival, begin by placing the rail yard board in the center of the table. And then you will take the foundation tiles, shuffle them up, and place them out on the two red train pieces at the end of the train on the rail yard board. Then you will choose from the top of those two tile stacks to place 4 tiles out on each of the spaces of the train. Next, shuffle the tricks of the trade cards and choose 3 to play with for that game. The rest of those cards will go back into the box. Then you should place out the supply of ticket tokens and guest pawns off to the side of the play area, and give each player a player board that they should place in front of themselves. Each player will receive 8 pawns in their own color. In this case, I'm playing red because this board is colored red. 3 of those pawns will go off to the side, and the other 5 will be placed here next to the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Finally, every player chooses 2 guest pawns and places 1 each on each of the entry spaces on their player board. And then we will also place the round marker on Sunday on the round tracker on the main rail yard board. The rest of the setup is dependent on how many players are playing the game. In this case today, we will be playing a solo playthrough, so all of the setup from here on will be the setup for a solo game. For the solo game, you're going to take out 3 Barker pieces, and I will put these up here in the corner just to get them out of the way for now. And then we will also take out and prepare 3 of each size of attraction tile. So we're going to have 3 of the 1 square tiles, 3 of the 2 square tiles, random selection of 3 of the 3 square tiles. There are 2 different shapes of 3, so I'm just taking them at random. Again, 3 of the 4 shaped tiles. There are also a variety of different shapes at the size 4, so I will also choose 3 of those at random. We've got an L shape, a long straight 4 shape, and we'll use this sort of S-shaped piece. And finally, 3 of the size 5 tile. These are all unique shapes, so we will draw 3 different shapes at random. We've got this sort of extended L shape, or S shape. We've got a slightly different S shape. And a very long L shape. So these are all of the pieces that we will have to play the game. Again, I apologize for everything sort of being placed randomly on the screen, but this is a very large setup and my space is not huge, so I'm doing my best to fit everything on the camera. One more thing I do need to mention specifically for the solo game is that these 3 cards, the Tricks of the Trade cards, should be laid out horizontally from left to right, because the number or the order of these cards does matter in the solo game. But because of the size limitations I have today, I've put them up here like this, and we will call this card number 1, card number 2, and card number 3. So a game of the Grand Carnival plays out over 7 rounds: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And in each round, we're going to be taking 5 actions. To take an action, we're going to move one of our player pawns onto the number next to its location. So we're going to place on 1 one time, 2 one time, 3 one time, 4 one time, and 5 one time. And the number that we place on is basically going to tell us the strength of the ability that we're choosing to do. And there are 3 different actions that we can take with each turn. The first action is we can place a foundation. So we can choose one of the foundation cards from up here on the rail yard. If we spend level 1, we can choose either of the face down cards. If we do level 2, we can take this or below. So we can place this card or tile or either of these tiles. 3 will let me place this tile or anything less. 4 will let me place this one and anything to the left. And 5 will let me place any of the tiles I would like to. It's also worth mentioning that if we take a tile from the face down stack, I can completely refresh all of the face up cards if I choose to do so. When a tile is taken, we can then place this tile in any of the open construction area spaces on our player board. It does not need to be adjacent to any other tile. There are no special placement restrictions. We can simply place it in one of these spaces. When we do take a tile, all of the other tiles will slide to the right, and we will draw a tile from one of the stacks to fill up the number 5 slot. The second action we can take is building an attraction. So if I have a foundation tile on my player board that has some construction areas on them, we can build a building that fits inside those construction areas. Now, it needs to be mentioned that they can only be built in the construction areas on a foundation tile. We can never build a building directly on these big construction areas. These areas are for placing foundation tiles. These areas are for building attractions. So for example, I could spend a 2 to build any attraction that is of a value 2 or lower, means 2 squares or 1 square attraction. So by playing this 2, I could then take this size 2 attraction and I could build it in the construction area on that foundation tile. Again, the number of the action in that case determines how large of an attraction we can build, always remembering that we can build anything that is lower in number than the number action we are taking. Finally, the last action we can take on our turn is moving guests. As you can see here, we have 2 guests, one of each starting in each of our entry spaces, and we can spend an action to move a guest up to the number of spaces equal to the number action that we're using. So if I take a 2, I can move one of my guests up to 2 spaces. They can only move through adjacent connecting spaces. They may never move into a space that contains another guest, or later when we have one of these Barker pieces, they cannot be in the same space as another pawn. They can also never walk through a construction area either on a foundation or on the main board, and they may never return to the entry space. So we're only moving through these green walkway tiles, basically headed towards the big top, because if we can get them into the big top at the top, they will score points. But also, whenever you end your movement next to an attraction that has been built, you're going to add one of these ticket tokens to that attraction. An attraction can hold a number of ticket tokens equal to the number or the size of that attraction. So for example, a size 2 attraction, as we have here, could hold up to 2 tickets. And it does not need to be placed exactly adjacent to the pawn, so long as the guest is next to the attraction. So if this guest landed here, and this ticket was already here, we could still place another ticket here even though that actual piece is not adjacent to that guest pawn. It only needs to be adjacent to the attraction itself. So where you're placing the ticket inside the attraction doesn't matter, so long as you don't go over the number of the attraction with the number of tickets that you've placed on that attraction. In addition, after you've moved, if both of your entry spaces are empty, you will add 2 new pawns or guest pawns to your entry spaces, and you will add a barker, one of these orange pieces here, on any open walkway on your board. When you add the barker, it's worth keeping in mind that the barker will never move. The barker will never score tickets on any of your attractions. And again, you can never move through the barker. So basically it's taking up a space and it's blocking everything. So you need to be extra careful about where you're placing the barker. However, in the solo game, the barker is going to score you 1 point for each of them that you have on your board. Plus, when you have a barker on your board, every time you move a guest pawn, you can move an additional 1 space per barker on your player board. So for example, if I activate this number 2 action, and I have a barker on my player board, only 1, then I can move any of my guest pawns 2 plus 1, meaning 3 spaces, because I have that barker on my board. And if I had 2 of them, then I could move 2 plus 2 and move 4 spaces. After you have finished using all 5 of your actions, the end of the round is triggered. In the solo game, after a round has ended, the rail yard cards are completely cleared. A new set of 4 cards will be placed out. The marker will be moved to the next round. All of your actions will reset, and you'll continue play from there. The tricks of the trade cards up here in the left corner are going to give you unique ways that you can break the rules of the game. In order to collect this card, I need to achieve whatever it says at the top of the card. So in this case, I would need to move one of my guest pawns all the way up top here into the big top space of my board. And if I do that, I will claim this card. And once I've claimed this card is going to allow my guests to move through other guests on my board. So this is breaking the rule that I told you cannot move through other guests. If I have this card, I can. This card here says if I have 5 attractions or more that don't have any tickets on them, then I can change an attraction size by 1 when scoring. And finally, this card here, the big draw, says if I have an attraction that has 3 tickets on it, I will claim this card. And if I have this card, my guests can then move through construction sites. So again, we're breaking a rule that I said couldn't be broken if we have this tricks of the trade card. In a multiplayer game, you would be fighting over who gets to claim those tricks of the trade cards. However, in the solo game, because there is nobody to compete with, what's going to happen is at the end of the second round, if I haven't already claimed it, this first card will be discarded. At the end of the third round, we will lose this card, and at the end of the fourth round, we will lose this card. So I need to do everything I can to make sure I get those cards before the end of the second, third, and fourth rounds. Alright, so now that we understand how to play the game, let me talk quickly about what the goals of the game are. Remember, we're playing 7 rounds, and at the end of the 7 rounds, we're going to tally up our score. And in a solo player game, we're going to take a look at a table and compare our score to that table to see if we've won the game or not. So to score, what's going to happen is this. We're going to score 1 point for every barker that's on our board. We're going to score 1 point for every trick of the trade card that we've managed to claim. We're going to score 1 point for every guest that makes it into the big top. We're going to score 1 point for every set of all 3 tiles of a certain size. So if I build all 5 size tile or all of the 1 size tiles or so on, then we will score 1 point for each of those sets of 3, as long as each of those tiles has at least 1 ticket on them. We're going to score 1 point for every attraction that has at least 2 tickets on it. And then finally, we're going to lose points if If we have any construction symbols showing on our main board or on any foundation tiles that are on our board, we're going to lose 1 point for each of those symbols showing. And then we will look at each of the different size tiles. For each of the different size attractions, for any size that we've only built one of them, we're going to lose 2 points. And if we have any size attractions that we haven't built any of, means all 3 of those tiles are still unbuilt at the end of the game, we're going to lose 4 points. So we really need to make sure that we're building at least one of everything before the end of the game. And potentially, if possible, at least 2 of everything to prevent losing any points on those. So now that you have some idea of how the game is going to work, let's go ahead and get started, and I hope that any questions or concerns you have will be answered as we play. So let me clean up the board and we'll get started. Okay, so we're looking at the tricks of the trade cards first because those will disappear if I don't get them. So I need to make sure in the first 2 rounds that I have 5 or more attractions that have no tickets on them. That's going to be pretty tricky to do in the first 2 rounds of the game, but we can try and see what we can do. It means we're going to have to aim for small sized things to start, but that's okay. All right, then I'm going to start by using an action 1 to take a random tile because it's cheap, and right now I don't really care so much what I get. That's exactly what I didn't want to get because I cannot build anything on this tile, but that's okay. I will place this here in the middle because that will allow lots of movement of my guests as they go through the park. All right, so let's avoid that from happening again. I'm going to take action 2 and build this one right here. And I'm going to put it here so that potentially this building could be scored by, or could be ticketed by both guests. So these all slide down. And I flip one more over. Now again, I want to have as many buildings built as possible. So right now, small things would be good to have. So I'm going to... No, I don't like those things. Well, first off, I'm going to use this 3 to build a level 2 attraction here. I've got 2 more actions. Clearly, I'm not really needing the 4 and the 5 as written, but I would like to build some things. So what I'm going to do right now is... don't really like any of that. I'm going to set up some combo kind of stuff. If I use this 4, it's not great, but if I build this here, and then I use the 5, well, these will slide down first. This goes here. That's great, but I can't use that right now. Well, I could though. Yeah, sure. I'm going to use that 5 because this is going to get wiped at the end of the round, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to put this here. And that will be the end of the round. We fill that tile, and then because this is the end of the round, all of these get wiped. This moves forward 1. We refill these 4. And all of our actions reset. All right, so we've only built 1 building, and I need to have 5 or more with no tickets on them. So I need to start building things. I'm going to start by building... Sure, I will build a level 3 down here in the corner. And then I will build, let's see. No, that's great. If I put a 2 here and take this, I can put that there. These slide down. This goes here. Now I can spend that 4 to put this piece here. No, I don't want to do that. I need to build 5 buildings and I have 3 actions left. So if I'm going to build anything, I need to build 3 more things with 3 more actions. So actually, I'm going to use that 4 anyway to build another 3. And this might bite me in the butt later on because I don't know if I'm going to be able to score enough points after focusing so much on these buildings for this card, because I'm not getting any tickets yet. But that's okay. I will spend a 1 to place a 1 here. And then I'm going to waste this 5 to place a 1 so that I can get that card right there. And I don't have a ton of space, so I'm just going to place this here. And that's the end of the round. Okay, so these reset. This gets cleared. And now we need to focus a little bit differently on our tactics this time. Ooh, but that 4 on the 2 looks not like a bad idea. All right, we do need to start getting some movement done so I can get some tickets done. And yes, we need some tickets, and I need to start getting some more people visiting and more people into the park. And I need to start getting some of those barkers so I can get more movement and more points at the end of the game. So I'm going to start by using my 1 to move this guy here, which gets a ticket on this one right here. I only put it there in the corner so that I have space there later. It doesn't really matter where I place it. Actually, I might as well just put it there. And then, yes, I want that 4-piece badly. I want to take that 4. I don't know if I'm building on it this turn or not, but I want that here. And those slide down. And this comes here. All right, and we'll see what else happens, because that 3-piece could go very nicely right there and build lots of empty space around. I definitely want this here so that then I get 2 tickets. 1 here and 1 here. I get 2 new guests at each entry. And then I get to place 1 barker. Now again, where I put him, he's going to block everything and be quite annoying. So I'm going to put him right here because I can still go around him very easily. And I've got 2 actions left. I need to be aiming, oops, sorry, I didn't move that forward. I need to be aiming at getting this by the end of this round, and there is no way possible for me to ever get somebody from here all the way up here by the end of this round. So that's not going to happen. So I should at least be looking to get 3 tickets on an attraction by the end of the next turn. Means, I don't like it. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to use this 4 to build this one here. Then I will use the 5 to move him 1, 2, 3, 4 into there, which places 1 ticket here and 1 ticket there. And that is the round. So unfortunately, I did not move a guest to the big top, so that card is out of the game. All right, we should have replaced from taking that tile, so these 4 tiles get thrown away. And we put out 4 new tiles. All right, so now we've got another round. All of this resets. We are now in round 4. And what am I trying to do? I need to get 3 tickets for sure on at least one attraction. And it's likely that this attraction might be my best option for that. So we will see what I can do in that case. Yes. All right. So I need to build, let's see, I didn't build a 4. I built a 1, 2 1s, and 2 3s, and 1 2. So I need to build another 2 and some 4s and 5s for sure. All right. And I've got a long 4, which is good. Ish. I don't want to put this one here because that blocks things off for me. That's not great. But that 3 looks nice. All right, I'm going to take the 3 and place that here. I don't mind having another 2 anyway. Then I will play a 2 to place a 2 here. And then yeah, that's not great. This slides down. This comes here. But I have a Barker, so I can move +1. So if I use this 1, he can move twice. 1, 2. So I can put a ticket here and a ticket here. Okay, so all I need is one more ticket on this, which I can do with this piece, which is not a problem. Yes, and I also want to buy a 4. Perfect. Okay, so I will buy this 4 piece, placing it right there. I think I like that one. Yeah, sure, that's good. No, because that's going to get blocked off. I would rather do that. Because then if I can place a 1 there, I can get the 4 and a 1 from that same spot, which is much, 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 much better. Okay, then I have a 5 left, which unfortunately is going to be a little bit wasted, but I'm going to use that 5 to move this piece here to place my 3rd ticket on this attraction, which gets me this card. So now on, I can move through construction sites. All right, so that's the end of the round. Again, we clean up, refreshing the rail yard. Putting these out here. We move up to round 5 and we reset our actions. All right, well, I do kind of want that 1. I need to get something going on over here so this guy's not trapped forever. Yes, all right, I'm going to take a 2 and place this one here. And that slides these down. We'll place this here. And then, yeah, why not? I'll take the 3 and place this one here as well, which slides these down. I place a new one there. I'm going to place a 1 in this corner. I could place the 4 there, which would get me another 4. But if I... having 2 of these left is going to get me -2 points. Having 3 of these is going to get me -4 points. So -2 and -4. If I do that, I get -4. If I do that, I get -2 and -2. Nothing changes. So I need to make sure I get at least one of these and at least one of these on the board in the next 2.5 rounds. So I don't necessarily hate that. But I'm actually not going to build anything right now. I'm going to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I use the 5 plus a Barker, hold on, how far does he move? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not good enough. All right, so I'm going to place this 5 and move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I place 2 tickets, one here and one here. And then it's a little bit of a waste, but I'm going to place this to move him here. So I can place a ticket on this, and I can place a ticket on this, and that's the end of the round. So we clear off these 4. And these go placed out. All right, next round. Reset these, and we're good. All right, so now I need to really focus on that 4 and that 5. And the tiles that are out are not going to help me turn this 4 into a 5. So I don't like those. So I think I would like to use a 1 to take a random tile and see what happens. That doesn't help me at all. I don't like that. I really don't like that, but we'll make it do something. Will we? If I put a 2 there, no, I'm gonna put this up here in the corner. Yeah, that's okay for now. I have this. This is 4 by 1. Yeah, I could do that. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to build this 4-piece. Now, working towards the end, I don't know if this is smart or not smart, but going to take, if we do it the other way, it doesn't matter. Okay, I am going to take the 3 and the 5 piece that are up there. It doesn't really matter which way I do it, because even if it slides to 4, I don't have a 4 left. So I'm gonna take the 5. Yeah, and put that here. And we will replace that with the same piece. Okay, so then I will take the 3 and I will place that there, because now we've got this 5-piece spot. So we'll end up doing that in the last round. And finally I have a 2. With 2 I'm going to move this guy up 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, which puts our first ticket on this attraction, generates us 2 new guests and 1 more barker. These 3 attractions already are full, so it doesn't hurt me to put the barker right there in the hole. Okay, then this should slide down, this tile should be placed, and then they all get cleared. And we move on to the final round of the game. So let's place out our tiles. If I can build something else, that would be good, but remember, I want tickets on things to get points for them. But I also don't lose points if things are built, so I want to make sure things are built first. If I can build 2 level 5s, that would be amazing. And we'll see. It looks like no. The problem is the shape of the level 5 that I have left. But I'm going to start by building that 5 because I need to. Which means I can't build another 5 anyway. Okay, so there's my level 5. How far does he need to move? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we've got a +2, so I need 6 movement, or 2 and 2 is 4. So if I have 4 total movement on 2 different movements, he could get in there. Yes. All right, let's do, what else do I have left? I have a straight 3. That's no good. Yeah, the 5s are done. I could build a 2 or a 3 depending on what I want to spend. I'm going to take a 1 to take a chance on a card to see what comes out. All right. I don't like it. I don't like it, but that's okay. This can go here. Then, all right, I'm gonna use a 3. Yeah, it's not gonna matter. I'm gonna use a 3 to move him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which puts a ticket on this one and a ticket down here on this one. Oops. Now, I'm not going to be able to get a second ticket there if I want him in the big top. But big top gives me 1 point. If I can get a second ticket here, it would give me 1 point anyway. If I can get a second ticket here, it'll give me 1 point anyway. And another Barker, if I move both of those, would get me 1. So that's 3, but then I lose 2 for this. Yeah, let's do that. If I build this 2 here, and then it's sort of a waste, but if I do this, and I move this here, I place 2 tickets, means this gets a second ticket, it'll score for having 2 tickets, and this gets 1 ticket, which means I have all 3 2s on the board and they all have at least 1 ticket. So I like that as my final move of the game. All right, so we go into scoring next. We start off 1 point per Barker. I have 1, 2 Barkers on the board. Next, 1 point for each trick of the trade card that I managed to get. I got 2 of those as well, so plus 2 more points. And then I get 1 point for every guest who made it to the big top. That didn't happen this time, so I don't get any points for that. Then 1 point per set of all 3 attractions of a given size that has at least 1 ticket. So I did build every 1 and every 2. So here we have 1, 1, 1. They all have tickets. That's 1 point. And here is 2, 2, and 2. They also have tickets, so that's another 1 point. Then I'm going to score 1 point per attraction that has at least 2 tickets. Means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So that puts me at 11 points. And now I lose 1 point per construction site that's visible. I only have 2 construction sites visible. So I am going to subtract 2 points. And then I'm going to lose 2 points for anything that I've only built 1 of, and 4 points for anything that I've built 2 of. So in this case, unfortunately, I only built 1 5. So I'm going to lose 2 points, so that's minus 2, gives me a total score of 7 points. And if we take a look at the table in the book, which should be showing up on the screen right now, you will see that with 7, I scored about middle range with an honored legacy. Not a bad way to end the game. All right, so while we're down here, as always, I like to take a look at the components. So we'll sort of start with what I've got out on the board. First off, just from a broad overview from here, I hope you can see that everything in this game is gorgeous. I love the art on this game. The design, the visual design of this game really pops. It feels like, I mean, the characters are like an old-timey 1930s, 1940s sort of cartoon. Something you might recognize from games like Cuphead recently, but it's very old, nostalgic style cartoon, and it really brings out the sort of feeling of a traditional old carnival or fair, and I really, really, really like that about it. The idea that this is a train car pulling my foundation pieces is really cool. The idea that it's 7 rounds because it's days of the week is clever. The design of the overall aesthetic of this game looks really nice. The tiles themselves, very clear. It's very easy to see the difference between the pathways and the building sites. The building sites are nice little cartoony looking hammer is a cool way to mark them. They're very thick, very nicely constructed tiles. the attraction tiles as well. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes, which is cool. The artwork on these attraction tiles is great. They're all unique, cool different rides or shows or different things that you'd expect to see at a carnival or a fair or an amusement park. Even amongst the smaller sized tiles, the shapes are the same, but the artwork and the attractions on them is very different. There are a couple repeats on the one spaces. For example, here you can see I have 2 cotton candy vendors, but that's not unusual, right? In a carnival or a fair, you might get more than one of the same food vendors, and it seems like all of the level 1 tiles are your food vendors. So it makes sense to me that you'd have multiples, but everything else is super unique. Lots of cool different attractions you'd get at a fair. These ticket tokens, let me see if I can get close enough for you to see what these actually look like. But these ticket tokens are really cool. The design that went into these tiny little tokens that really don't mean much of anything except point markers on your board, it just oozes the theme. This game really shines the theme, and the components really help with that. The tricks of the trade cards, very clear. I mean, they're very colorful. The iconography is very easy to understand, and even if it's not, it specifically draws or explains on them in text as well what you need to do. But even at a faraway glance, it's very easy to immediately see what it is that you need to do for those tricks of the trade. Now, the last thing about this game, as far as components go, well, the boards are nice. Things might be a little bit too big. If I was going to complain about the components in any way, the player board is very large. I mean, the tiles couldn't be really any smaller without shrinking the size of everything, and then it might be a little bit more fiddly with small components. But understand that you will need some table space for this game to play, but that's not a huge problem. But the huge positive here that I just want to take a second to point out is the vast array of uniquely shaped meeples in this game that I just love. I mean, let me show you some of these things. The round marker is a circus tent. The circus barkers that are there to give you the extra movement and those points that we were talking about. I don't know if you can see these guests. I'll try and get as close as I can. See if that'll focus good enough to see that. But these guests are really cool. They're like these sort of walking people. And on top of all of that, here's a first player marker. You don't use this in a solo game, but it's a very cool piece that's simply designed as a first player marker. The gold colored carousel horse it's just a great standout piece. And the coolest thing, and let me show you this now, is that each of the player pieces is a completely different shape. And it's really cool. So the red is sort of a monkey with symbols. Yellow is a bear on a ball, it looks like. Green is a rabbit coming out of a hat. And the blue piece looks like a seal balancing a ball on its nose. It's just really cool the amount of work that they went into to design all of this thematic flair to the game. It didn't need to be done, but because it was done, it takes the game to another level. Now, the last thing I do want to show you is what it looks like inside the box. I like to show off what the inserts of a game look like. So give me 1 second. We'll clear the table and I'll show you the insert. Okay, so I did say let's take a look at the insert, but the truth is there is no insert. You just get the box. And if I'm going to complain about anything at all about the components or the design of this game, this is my big complaint right here, is that this game really would have done well with at least some kind of an insert. And let me show you why. So to start off, you've got the 4 player boards. Red, green, blue, and yellow. One thing I didn't show you before, and I'm happy to show you now, is that each of them has a very different character on them, and the characters are very nice and stylized, and the colors are very clear and pop nicely. But back to the insert, or lack thereof. The player boards fit into the box, and only just fit into the box, which is fine, but it does make them very difficult to get out of the box. You're sort of going to have to turn it over and let them come out. But that's fine. That means they're not going anywhere in the box. I'm fine with that. The rail yard board can go right in there like that. And beyond that, there's no other sort of storage option. The game comes with a few small bags for things like the tokens and the guest pawns, which is great. But beyond that, for all of the tiles, you don't get anything. Now, I have used my own bags, and I'm going to show you right now how I've organized things, but it needs to be much better organized. So here I've got all the tiles in a bag. This bag was my own bag. It didn't come with anything, so you just sort of have to put those in there like that. And if they're not flat, you may not get the bag closed all the way. And then again, beyond that, everything I've got is just sort of in baggies. So I just sort of do my best at fitting everything in the box in baggies. And it fits. You don't have to worry about the box not closing. But this should not be, in my opinion, what a game looks like when it's packed away. And I'm not sure what they could have done about this, honestly, because realistically, those player boards need to fit into the box. And I don't know how the tiles would be set in here, but I guess they could do an insert underneath, and then you play the player boards at the very top of the box on the way out. Anyway, I think a little bit more thought could have been put into this, but otherwise, the components of this game are great. The design of this game is great. One more thing I didn't show you is the game actually does come with a score pad as well for the multiplayer game, which is also something that's unnecessary but very, very nice to have. So I applaud you for that as well. But yeah, components are great, design is great, aesthetics, it's a beautiful game, but this lack of insert bothers me just a little bit. So now that you've heard what I think about the design and the components of the game, meet me back up top and we'll talk about what I think about the game itself. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. I'm going to come out and say it just like I do in most of my reviews. You may have already guessed this based on my thoughts on the components, or if you've seen any of my other videos on polyomino games or sort of spatial puzzle-based games. I really, really, really enjoyed this game. But that's not really going to be helpful to you at all. So let me get into sort of my thoughts about this game and why I like this game as much as I do. I'm going to start first by talking about the mechanisms in this game. The first sort of mechanism that you run into is the sort of idea of action selection. On my turn, I'm choosing not only one of 3 actions, but also one of 5 different strengths that I can activate that action at. And I know that every round, I can take as many of those actions, or each of those actions as many times as I want to, but I can only do 5 total actions, and I can only do 1 at each sort of strength level each round. So if I want to use a level 5 sort of building, right, placing an attraction action, then I know that I can't ever get the tile, the foundation tile in the level 5 slot because I've already used my 5 for that round. So this puzzle of sort of not only which action do I take now and in which order do I take the actions, but also which action do I want to do at this level, which action do I want to do at that level, and how do I combine those in the right order to make something worthwhile happen on my player board. And that idea of not only am I choosing an action, but I'm choosing the strength or the level of that action, knowing full well that I can't use that again until the following round, even if I want to use the same action type. So that decision space is a really, really cool one. The other big mechanism in this game is the actual physical building of the carnival. And in this case, again, this is a polyomino-based game, but the way that this game uses polyominoes feels very different to me. And let me explain. In many of the other polyomino games that I've played, the point of the polyomino is the puzzle of most efficiently fitting in each of the pieces to fill your board, right? In most polyomino games, I'm trying to figure out really clever ways that these pieces sort of fit inside of each other so I can fill my pattern as tight as I possibly can. But in this game, that's not the case, right? In this game, we have those guest pawns that are moving through the carnival. And the way that we get them to score is that they need to stop adjacent to different attractions. So when you're building these things, if you can find a way not for the polyominoes to connect to each other, but instead to fill in such a way that they create unique gaps, that the guests can get inside those gaps and score on multiple attractions at the same time, you're doing very well. So it's less about the efficiency puzzle and more about a map in your head about where these polyominoes fit to build this trail that your guests can walk through, paying tickets at as many attractions as they can on the way through your carnival. And on top of that, it's not only about that because I can't just place them down wherever I want to. It also has the next level puzzle of buying the correct foundation pieces to build the shapes that I need to then lay those polyominoes in, right? I'm not just filling a grid with polyominoes. I am building the shapes of the polyominoes on my board with foundation tiles, and then later laying my polyomino tiles on top of those spaces. So there's two levels of preparation and planning that I'm putting into the game as I'm creating this atmosphere or this carnival for my guests to walk through. And at the same time, I have to constantly be thinking that those guests can never walk through each other. And also, every time I clear both entrances, I'm getting one of those Barker pieces that's going to block a space forever. So I really have to plot out not only where the attractions are, but where the empty spaces are, and to make sure that there's enough room for my pawns to walk through the carnival. So this combination of choosing actions at different levels and then building this sort of map of strange shapes around the carnival that functions in the correct way is just a really, really, really nice combination of mechanisms. So then getting further into the game itself, looking at the goals, it's worth noting that the solo scoring is quite a bit different than the multiplayer scoring. And I haven't looked too deeply into the multiplayer scoring yet because I haven't had a chance to play this multiplayer. I was just looking at this as a solo experience. But I do know in the multiplayer game you're scoring a lot on sets of things, and you're scoring a whole lot more points for things based on sets of tiles or how many Barkers or how many get into the big top, and you get more points for bigger sets or bigger amounts of each of these things. In the solo game, you're getting very, very small points. Everything is sort of 1 point or 2 points here and there, but you're getting points for almost everything. I don't want to call it a point salad because sometimes that sounds a little bit scary or negative, and it's not at all a negative in this case. But the solo game has something unique in the tricks of the trade cards. All right, from my understanding, in the multiplayer game, you're fighting over these tricks of the trade cards. Somebody's going to get them, and basically, when you get them, they allow you to break rules, which first off, let me say, is really, really cool. I love the unique ways that each of these different tricks of the trade cards allow you to break the rules. Some of the ones that I've seen, we can walk through another guest. You can walk guests through construction areas. Some of them allow the guests to move diagonally. I had one in one of my games that allowed me to place tickets on diagonally adjacent attractions, which made a really nice puzzle, because then I could think, not only do I have buildings that I'm building next to where my guests are walking, but diagonally adjacent as well. So I could score all kinds of really cool sort of cascading patterns of attractions, which was fun. But yeah, there's just a wide variety of these tricks of the trade cards, and they all break the rules in really cool, unique ways. But more than that, in the solo game, the tricks of the trade cards are somewhat special, because not only are they giving me these abilities that break the rules, but remember, I'm scoring a point for each of those tricks of the trade cards. And you saw in my playthrough, my total score was only 7. And I've played other games, I had a score of 4, my highest score was a score of 9. These scores are not big scores. So if I'm getting up to 3 points for these tricks of the trade cards, that's worth a lot of points. And what that means is the tricks of the trade cards are doing something really interesting. Because, as you saw in my game, the second trick of the trade card that I had, I needed to get a guest up to the big top. And I had to do that by the end of the 3rd round. So if I had been aiming for that, I probably could have. But because I was aiming for the goal on the first one, I wasn't thinking about rushing somebody up to the top. But that's what I really like about this. Every time I start a solo game, not only do I have the scoring goals that I'm scoring every single time I play the game, I also have 3 unique tricks of the trade cards, and they're going to disappear at the end of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round if I don't get them. And if I don't get them, that's 3 points I don't get from my final score. So I really want to get them. So what that means is at the beginning of every game, I have 3 very unique sort of conditions that I need to meet in a very quick, short piece of time, right? 2, 3, and 4 rounds in a 7-round game is basically in the first half of the game. I need to get some big goals accomplished, right? Building many different buildings or getting somebody all the way across the board. These things are not easy to do. One of them is getting 3 guests lined up in a row, so I have to move at least 3 times. Things like these are really cool ways to sort of push me towards different strategies or different ways of thinking about the puzzle every time I play. And not only am I going to get unique cards every time, but the mix of 3 gives me unique patterns of how they interact with each other. And because, as I mentioned, this is kind of a point salad sort of game, that's great because I can focus on, as you saw in this last game, getting 5 buildings out that didn't have any tickets on them. It didn't hurt me to not have tickets because now I have 5 buildings on the board, or 5 attractions on the board. And if I have 5 attractions on the board early, then I can flood some guests in there and start throwing tickets on all of those attractions and score lots of points. But at the same time, if I had focused on getting somebody in the big top to get that second trick of the trade, I could have then sent more people up into the big top, and everyone I have in the big top is worth a point. So there's no one way to win the game. You definitely have to make sure to have a mix of attractions. You can't just aim at one, but you can aim at a few and take a few negative points and push those positive points to counteract those negative points. So there is no, at least as far as I can see so far, there's no magic bullet to win the game. Okay, I will say that I haven't lost the game yet, so it might be somewhat easy. I don't feel it's easy. I feel like there's a challenge every time, and I may be getting nice sort of mixes of things that work well together. But yeah, it's just really cool mix of thought and how you can work this game and how you can get there. And I never feel like I'm completely at a loss with what I can do. I always feel like there's something I can do. And even if I sort of focus all my attention on one area first, I feel like 1 or 2 rounds later, I still have time to readjust and score points in different ways. And I really like that. Now, of course, with these trick of the trade cards coming out the way they do, and the foundation cards coming out in the way they, or the foundation tiles coming out randomly in the way they do, you might get put into a situation where randomness could hurt your game a little bit. That being said, I've played this a bunch of times now, and I haven't felt that yet. And even if it did, it's not going to be common. It's not going to happen a lot. And also, the game is not that long. So if you get a bad game, finish it and play again. Or if you really get a bad deal and you really don't like it, mulligan, start again and play from scratch. It's a solo game. Nobody's going to get angry at you for trying to start from fresh. But I've said this before in other reviews, and I'll say this again. I'm a tactical kind of player. I enjoy that random puzzle thrown at me, right? If the game is the same every time and I'm just trying harder to get better, that's fun. But eventually it just feels like work to me. But when I have to twist my brain in a different way every time I'm playing the game to meet the new conditions and satisfy the new goals, it feels engaging. And I like that in this game a lot. And thematically as well, this game shines. I already showed you in the components how everything is so well designed that the art really pushes the theme through. But the way the game plays as well, right? It makes sense that I'm scoring points by getting more people spending tickets at my attractions. It makes sense that loading people into the big top for the big show at the end should be getting me points because they're spending more money at my carnival. And the way that things are being built, that there's construction areas that people aren't allowed to enter because they're off limits that construction is happening. But once I've placed down a foundation, they can walk through the path even if the construction is still there off to the side, as long as they go around it. It all makes thematic sense, and it works really well. In the past, there was another game that's come out called Steam Park that had a sort of similar amusement park building kind of experience, and I also really enjoyed that game. I'm not going to say mechanically that they're not that similar, because I mean, this one is clearly a tile laying, puzzle solving kind of game, whereas that one was also bag building. While it did have a bit of a spatial building aspect to it as well. But I think that I don't have any reason to go back to Steam Park after playing this game. This game does the theme wonderfully. The puzzle or the mechanisms work really well, and I just have a whole lot of fun with this game. I do look forward to finally getting this played multiplayer as well, because I'm sure it will work well there, and the idea of competition over tricks of the trade and grabbing buildings before somebody else does is also something that seems really fun. So I look forward to getting this played a whole lot more, both solo and multiplayer. And if you're interested, I definitely recommend you check it out. So thanks for watching as always. Like and subscribe below, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.